Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. And today we'll be discussing the theory related to this chapter, Human Health and Diseases. This is the part 1 of the lecture. And in today's session, we'll be discussing NCERT section 7.1. Okay, so this is the disclaimer. Now, what are the objectives of today's session? So today, we'll be understanding the classification of common human diseases. So we'll be talking about infectious and non-infectious diseases. We'll also talk about their causative agents. Next, we'll talk about the symptoms of these diseases, how these diseases are transmitted, and how the diseases can be prevented. Okay, so these diseases can be caused by bacteria, by virus, by protozoans, by helminths as well. So how these diseases can be prevented, we'll talk about this as well. Then we'll describe the life cycle of Plasmodium and its role in causing malaria. We'll also talk about its control measures. Then we will analyze the importance of healthy lifestyle choices and preventive measures in controlling common disease. Okay, this is clear. So today we'll be talking about common diseases in humans, which is NCERT section 7.1. Then we will summarize this entire session. We'll discuss some NCERT based questions. Then we'll discuss some keynotes that will help you memorize these topics. There'll be some interesting questions that will enhance your critical thinking ability as well. Okay, let's start with the session today. Let's understand what is health. So, according to WHO, what is health? So, WHO definition of health is that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Means health is a state of total well-being, or you can say overall well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Here in this diagram, you can see what are the three conditions of health: social well-being, physical health, as well as mental health. So, what is included under physical well-being? So, this refers to a healthy body that is free from disease and possess the ability to function properly. Now, mental well-being, this encompasses emotional and psychological states, including the ability to cope with stress, think clearly, and contribute to one's community. Now, next, social well-being. This aspect of health involves positive relationships, social integration, and a feeling of belonging and connection with others. Okay, so this was about health. This is the definition of health. Now let's talk about some of the historical perspectives. Okay, so let's talk about the good humor hypothesis, which was a major idea in both Greek and Indian medicine. Now, the good humor hypothesis said that health was a balance of certain humors in the body and mind. Now, this idea shaped medicine for centuries and influenced how people thought about disease and treatment. Now, people believed that those with too much black bile had a hot personality and were more likely to get fevers. Now, this shows us how early medicine tried to link personality and physical health to body fluids, even though we now know that's not accurate. Okay, now this theory was actually disapproved. Okay, good humor hypothesis, this was disapproved. Clear? Now, William Harvey, through careful experiments, showed that blood circulates in the body and that the people with excess black bile did not actually have higher body temperature. Okay, now they had thermometer also, so they can measure the body temperature using the thermometers. So what they, you can say, observe that people, even when they have excess black bile, their body temperature was normal. Okay, so this was a turning point as it proved that the human theory was incorrect and paved the way for modern medicine. Yeah. So you can see blood is a kind of humor. Okay. Now let's talk about the factors affecting health. Now let's understand what are genetic disorders first. Now you can see these genetic disorders, these are certain deficiencies or certain defects that are inherited from the parents to their offsprings. Means they are passed down from parents to their children's. In genetic disorders, they can be mutation in the genes. And these, you can see these disorders, they are passed on, they are inherited in the next generation as well. Now, next, what are infections? So infections are diseases which are caused by pathogens like bacteria, virus, and fungi. Next, what is lifestyle? So lifestyle factors include everything from what we eat and drink to how much we sleep and exercise. Now, good habits can protect us from many diseases, while poor habits can increase our risk. Okay, now let's talk about mind-body connection. The mind-body connection highlights how our thoughts and emotions can impact our health. For example, stress can weaken our immune system, while positive thinking and relaxation can help us recover faster. Okay, so here we have discussed some terms which are related to this topic, human health. Clear? Now you can see this is the table showing you difference between communicable disease and non-communicable diseases. So disease can be characterized into two groups. Here you can see what is communicable disease. Now, communicable disease, these can spread from one individual to another or from a disease organism such as pathogen to another person, okay, or to a person. Now, this transmission can occur through direct contact, airborne droplets, contaminated food, or contaminated water as well, or vectors like insects. Now, what are the causes? So, they are primarily caused by infections, infectious biological agents called pathogens, including virus. Okay. Now, example can be influenza, COVID-19, and HIV. These are all viral diseases. Bacterial disease include tuberculosis, cholera, and pneumonia. Fungi can also cause disease. So, fungi, like those causing ringworms, okay, or athlete's foot. So, these are all fungal diseases. Now, some of the protozoans can also cause diseases such as malaria. It is caused by Plasmodium, which is a protozoan. Clear? Now, let's talk about the disease progression. Symptoms usually develop rapidly or acutely. How it can be prevented? So, prevention can be done through measures like vaccination. Clear? So, here you can see in this table, they are showing you, okay, or all the points are listed about the communicable and non-communicable diseases. Okay, so let's have a look at the table. So, communicable disease, they can spread from person to person or organism to a person. Organism means the pathogen to a person. Then, about non communicable diseases, they cannot spread between the people, means they are not transmitted. Then, communicable disease, they can be caused by pathogens, such as bacteria, virus, fungi, and parasites. And non communicable disease, these are caused by lifestyle, genetics as well, environment, or age. Now, Communicable diseases, they usually develop rapidly, the symptoms develop rapidly, whereas non-communicable diseases, the symptoms usually develop slowly. Then here the examples of communicable and non-communicable diseases are written here. Okay, we have talked about the examples of communicable diseases, which are COVID-19, flu, TB, and HIV. Then examples of non-communicable diseases are diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and asthma. Okay, so you can see all these non-communicable diseases, these cannot be transmitted from one another to another person. Okay, they are non-communicable, and their symptoms appear slowly as the disease progresses. Communicable disease can be prevented through vaccination and maintaining proper hygiene, and non-communicable diseases, they can be prevented through healthy lifestyle choices. Now let's talk about communicable disease. They are often treated with antibiotics or antivirals, whereas the non-communicable diseases, they are treated through ongoing management and medication. The non-communicable disease, they are usually short-term, means they are acute, and non-communicable diseases, they are usually long-term or chronic. Chronic means long-term, means the disease is from a very long time, and the symptoms, they appear slowly, like in heart disease. Okay, like in cancer, the person don't even know they have cancer or heart disease. Okay? They come to know about the disease when the symptoms appear. Now, communicable disease, they can cause epidemics or pandemics, and non-communicable diseases, they cannot cause epidemics and pandemics. Let's talk about the common diseases in humans. We're talking about this topic. Now, pathogens, what are pathogens? So, the term pathogen is basically describing disease-causing organisms. What are the definitions? So, pathogens are organisms like bacteria, virus, fungi, protozoans, and helminths that can cause harm to the host by living in or on them. Now, let's focus on how pathogens adapt to survive in the host body. For example, some can withstand the low pH of stomach or resist the digestive enzymes. So this adaptation is crucial for their survival and ability to cause infections. Let's discuss the vectors now. So vectors are organisms that transmit pathogens without getting sick themselves. For example, mosquitoes can carry malaria parasites from one person to another, acting as a bridge for the diseases. Let's talk about the bacterial diseases. The first one is the typhoid. So here you can see typhus is caused by a bacteria, Salmonella typhi. Then how it is transmitted? It is transmitted through contaminated food or water. Now the bacteria enter the small intestine and then spread to other organs via the bloodstream. The common symptoms include persistent high fever, weakness, stomach pain, headache, and loss of appetite. Now, if left untreated, typhoid can become life-threatening as well, potentially causing intestinal perforation. The infection is officially confirmed through a blood test known as Vidal test. Now, there is a case study of Mary Milon, also known as Typhoid Mary. So, she was a cook and a typhoid carrier who continued to spread the disease for several years. That's why she was nicknamed Typhoid Mary. Okay, so Mary Mellon, she had typhoid, but he did not show any symptoms of this typhoid. Okay, so she kept on spreading the disease to other persons. Okay, while she was cooking. Clear? Now you can see later she was quarantined, but she spread this disease to a large number of people. That's why she was named Typhoid Mary. Here you can see in this image typhoid symptoms in the adults. Clear? So we have already seen the symptoms of the typhoid. So these are sustained high fever, weakness, stomach ache, constipation, headache, and loss of appetite. Now, next one is pneumonia. So here you can see pneumonia is caused by Streptococcus pneumonia and Haemophilus influenza. Now, disease spreads when a person inhales droplets or aerosol from an infected individual, such as through a cough or sneeze, or by sharing contaminated items like glasses or cups. Okay. Now, common symptoms include fever, chills, coughing, and headache. While in severe cases, the lack of oxygen can cause the lips and fingernails to turn grayish or bluish in color. A condition known as cyanosis. Clear? So here, in pneumonia, the alveoli are affected. Alveoli are they are the sacs present within the lungs. In alveoli, exchange of gases occurs. Okay, here the alveoli get filled with fluid, leading to severe problems in respiration. Here you can see this is this image showing you difference between normal and a lung infected with this bacteria or pneumonia infected lungs. Okay. So here you can see on the left side, the lung is healthy. On the right side, you can see the person is having pneumonia. So you can see the alveoli is being affected here. Okay, alveoli, they are the sac-like structures where the exchange of gases occurs. In the alveoli, there is fluid accumulation. So this affects the exchange of the gases. Let's talk about the viral diseases. The first one is the common cold. So these diseases, they are caused by viruses. Now, common cold, as you know, this is a very frequent illness and it is primarily caused by rhinovirus. Now, this virus specifically infects the nose and respiratory passage, but importantly, it does not infect lungs. Remember this. Okay, it is infecting the respiratory passage. Now, the common cold is highly contagious and spreads mainly in two ways: through airborne droplets released when an infected person coughs or sneezes, and indirectly through contact with contaminated objects like pens, books, or cups. This easy transmission, particularly in crowded environments like school and offices, explains why cold are so common. Here you can see this is an image showing you symptoms of common cold. So these are cough, sore throat, fever, headache, and runny nose. Now next, we were talking about the common cold symptoms: nasal congestion and discharge, sore throat, soreness, cough, headache, tiredness, and the symptoms usually last for 3 to 7 days. Now here you can see other viral diseases are dengue and chikungunya, which are transmitted by the bite of the Aedes mosquito. So Aedes mosquito, this is the vector for this disease. Clear? Vector. Okay, what are vectors? So through vectors, these pathogens are transmitted from one person to another person. So here, in the case of dengue and chikungunya, vector is Aedes mosquito. Okay, this Aedes mosquito, this is carrying this virus. Let's talk about the protozoan disease now. First one is amoebiasis, also known as amoebic dysentery. So here in this table, you can see amoebiasis. This is a parasitic infection of the large intestine caused by Entamoeba histolytica. This is a protozoan. Now transmission occurs primarily through the fecal oral route, where people ingest food or water contaminated with infected feces. Now these disease is often spread by mechanical carriers like houseflies. Now once in the large intestine, this protozoan can cause symptoms like constipation, abdominal pain and cramps, and stools containing excess mucus and blood clots. Now, good hygiene and sanitation are crucial for prevention of this disease. The next one is malaria. So here, malaria is caused by a protozoan parasite known as Plasmodium. Okay, let's talk about the malignant malaria. It is the most dangerous form of disease which can be fatal if caused, and it is caused by Plasmodium falciparum. So there are different species of Plasmodium: Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malaria, Plasmodium falciparum. The most fatal form, the most dangerous form of malaria, this is the malignant. This is called malignant malaria, and it caused by Plasmodium falciparum. Now, let's talk about the vector. Vector is female Anopheles mosquito, and this Plasmodium, okay, this protozoan requires two hosts, human host and mosquito host, to complete its life cycle. So it has a complex life cycle. It is requiring two hosts here, human host and the female Anopheles mosquito. These both are the host as well, and female Anopheles mosquito, this is the vector as well. Okay, let's talk about the life cycle of Plasmodium. So the first step is infection. Okay, so what happens here? The infected female Anopheles mosquito bites a human and injects sporozoids. Okay, so sporozoid, this is the infectious form of Plasmodium. Okay, now sporozoids, they are entering into the human's blood. Okay, sporozoid, they are the infectious form. You have to remember this. So now, here, human is the host now. Now, what is happening next? These sporozoid, they travel through the bloodstream and they reach the liver. Now, these sporozoids, they multiply asexually in the liver cells, and within the liver they will form schizons. Okay, now these schizons, they will rupture to form merozoids, and these merozoids are released in the bloodstream, and then the merozoid will infect the RBCs then. Okay, so here you can see in this image, the sporozoids, they reach the liver via blood and they multiply asexually. And first of all, they will form schizons. Then they will form merozoids. Okay, so now these merozoids, they will infect the RBCs now. Okay, so here it is written, parasite enters red blood cells. So basically, merozoids, they are entering into the RBCs, and again they multiply asexually. Now they will also rupture RBCs, causing cycles of fever and other symptoms. Okay, so when RBC, they burst, then hemozoin is also released. Hemozoin is basically produced from the hemoglobin, okay, by these parasites, and this hemozoin is the cause of fever and the chills and the other symptoms related to malaria. Okay, again you can see in this image, female Anopheles mosquito is biting a hand of a person. Then the sporozoid, they reach the liver cells. Okay, in liver cells they will divide by asexual reproduction. They will form schizons, and then schizons, they will rupture and they will form merozoid. This merozoid will enter into the bloodstream, and this merozoid will infect the RBCs. Then RBCs will also burst, and by the rupture of RBCs, what is happening? Hemozoin is also released, which causes the symptoms. Okay. Now, after the merozoids, gametocytes are being produced. So gametocytes are produced, or they develop within the RBCs only. Now, gametocyte, this is the sexual stage. Okay. So now when the RBC bursts, then what happens? The rupture of RBC is associated with the release of a toxic substance known as hemozoin. So this hemozoin is what causes the classic malarial symptoms, chills and high fever that come back every 3 to 4 days. Okay. So till here you can see the rupture of RBC is shown to you. Clear? Now next, we have discussed the toxin release. Clear? Now this merocyte will develop into gametocyte within the RBCs only. Okay, so some of the parasite differentiate into male and female gametocytes. Some parasite means merozoite, they will differentiate into male and the female gametocytes. Gametocytes, they are the sexual stage. So there'll be male gametocyte and female gametocyte. Because in sexual reproduction, 2 individuals are required. Okay, then what is happening? Now the host is mosquito now. Earlier, till here, the host was human. Now, what happens when a female Anopheles mosquito bites an infected person, okay, who have gametocytes in their blood? These gametocytes will now enter into the female Anopheles mosquito along with the blood. Okay, so a female Anopheles mosquito bites an infected person and ingests the gametocyte along with the blood. Now the mosquito is host now. Then what will happen? Now these male and female gametocyte, they will fuse with each other, means there will be fertilization. Clear? After fertilization, again sporozoites will be produced. So these gametocytes, they reach mosquito's gut. In mosquito's gut, fertilization occurs. And after fertilization, mature sporozoites are formed. And these sporozoites, they then migrate to the mosquito's salivary glands, ready to infect another human upon biting. So these sporozoids, they are stored in the salivary glands, and whenever female Anopheles mosquito bites another person, healthy person, it will transmit these sporozoids in that healthy person. Okay, so this is the full life cycle of the Plasmodium. Yeah, so here starting with the, you can see the female Anopheles mosquito is biting a human's hand. Then you will talk about the sporozoites. They multiply by sexual reproduction in the liver. They'll form schizons and then merozoites. Merozoites will infect RBCs. Then some of these merozoites will develop into the gametocyte within the RBCs. Now, gametocyte, they are the sexual stage. Then the female Anopheles mosquito, this is again biting this infected person, and these gametocyte will transferred into the mosquito's gut along with the blood. Then in the mosquito's gut, fertilization will take place, and after fertilization, sporozoites will be formed, and the sporozoites will migrate to mosquito salivary glands. And when again this female Anopheles mosquito bites another healthy person, that sporozoid will be transferred into that healthy person as well. Now let's talk about disease caused by helminths. First is Ascariasis. Now here you can see this disease is caused by Ascaris lumbricoides, okay, which is the common roundworm. Okay, it is a roundworm. Now this disease spreads through contaminated food and water and causes symptoms like internal bleeding, muscle pain, fever, anemia, and intestinal blockage. Okay, let's talk about the next helminthic disease, which is filariasis, also known as elephantiasis. Now you can see the pathogen responsible for these diseases are Wucheria bancrofti and Wucheria malai. Both of these are filarial worms. Now, this disease is transmitted by the female Culex mosquito. So, female Culex mosquito, this is a vector for this disease. Okay. So, female Culex mosquito carries the parasites or is transmit the parasite from one person to another person. Here in this image, you can see the person suffering from filariasis. You can see the lower limbs, they are swollen. Clear? And that's why it is known as elephantiasis also, because the foot looks like an elephant feet. Okay, this is clear. So here you can see basically the lower limbs are more affected. Here you can see what happens, what is the mechanism. Now this worm lives for years in the lymphatic vessels. So the worm blocks the lymphatic vessels, leading to swelling and deformity, especially in the legs. That's why the legs, they are swollen. Now what are the symptoms you can see here? There are gross deformities and swelling of affected organs, most commonly affect the lower limbs. That's why it is known as elephantiasis, and then can also affect genital organs as well. Okay. Now let's move on to the fungal diseases. These are caused by fungus. Now one of the major fungal disease is ringworm. Now pathogen involved is microsporium, trichophyton, and epidermophyton. Main symptoms are dry and scaly lesions and intense itching. Okay, this is an image showing you a person having a ringworm infection. Okay, ringworm affected area of the skin is shown to you. Okay. What are the fungi which causes this disease? Ringworm, microsporum, trichophyton, and epidermophyton. Okay. Now here you can see what are the favorable conditions in which this fungi can infect a person. Okay, so what are the favorable conditions in which this fungi can grow? So this fungi, this love warm, moist environments, which is why infections occur in skin folds. Okay, like the groin or between the toes, because here the conditions are warm and moist. So these are optimal conditions for this fungus to grow. Okay, now transmission. So ringworm can spread through direct contact with soil or by sharing personal items like towels, clothes, or combs with someone who is infected. So to maintain good hygiene is very important. Here you can see in this image the area affected by ringworm. Okay, ringworm affected area. Now let's talk about the prevention and control of infectious diseases. Now first one is personal hygiene. So this involves keeping the body clean. Now regular washing and bathing helps remove dirt, sweat, and microbes from our skin. Now it is very important to consume clean drinking water, food and vegetables as well as fruits. Contaminated food or water can introduce harmful bacteria or viruses into our bodies. Next is public hygiene. So proper disposal of waste and excreta is a key part of public hygiene. If waste is not managed well, it can attract flies and rodents which spread diseases. Now, periodic cleaning and disinfection of water reservoirs, pools, cesspools, and tanks is also essential. Now, stagnant water can become a breeding ground for mosquitoes and bacteria, and regular cleaning helps break the cycle of infection. Finally, following standard hygiene practices in public catering is crucial. This means that food handlers and restaurants must maintain cleanliness to prevent outbreaks of foodborne diseases. Okay, let's talk about the vector control for insect-borne diseases like malaria, filariasis, and dengue. Now, first is the eradication. So this means avoiding stagnation of water in and around residential areas, and is very crucial because stagnant water is the perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes. So by removing these water sources, we break the mosquito life cycle and reduce the risk of disease like malaria and dengue. Second one is the biological control. So this involves introducing larvivorous species such as Gambusia into ponds, and this is a very effective way to naturally reduce mosquito larvae. So these fish act like natural pest controllers, eating the larvae before they can grow into adult mosquitoes. Next one is the chemical control. This is another important strategy. Now, regular cleaning of household coolers using mosquito nets and spraying insecticide in ditches, drainages areas, and swamps help to kill mosquitoes and prevent their spread. Okay, so here we are using the chemicals such as insecticides. These are being sprayed in ditches, drainage areas, and swamps. The next one are the physical barriers. Physical barriers are simple but effective, installing wire mesh on doors and windows, and this prevent mosquito from entering the homes. Okay, so this reduces the chance of being bitten indoors, means inside the house. Okay, now next one, immunization, also known as the vaccination. The use of vaccines and immunization programs have enabled us to control diseases like smallpox, polio, diphtheria, pneumonia, and tetanus. Okay, so this was some of the strategies to control the vector. Eradication, biological control, chemical control, which include use of chemicals, and physical barriers like introducing wire mesh on doors and windows. Even you can use mosquito nets as well. Now let's summarize the entire session. So we talked about the infectious and non-infectious diseases. So infectious disease, they are transmittable. Okay, they can spread from one person to another person. Now disease can be caused by bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoans, and helminths. Vectors, which are basically mosquitoes. Okay, mosquito, they are kind of vectors. They transmit disease from one person to another person without being affected. One of the example of bacterial disease is typhoid. Typhoid is caused by a bacteria Salmonella typhi. And typhoid can be diagnosed by a test known as Vidal test. Next is pneumonia. So this disease affects the alveoli in the lungs. Okay, and this is caused by Streptococcus pneumonia. A common cold, this is caused by a virus called as rhinovirus, and this affects the respiratory tract. Now, dengue and chikungunya, they are transmitted by Aedes mosquito. This is a vector for dengue and chikungunya. Then amoebiasis is caused by Entamoeba histolytica, which is a protozoan, and it affects large intestine. Malaria, again, is caused by a protozoan known as Plasmodium, and this is transmitted by female Anopheles mosquito. Ascariasis, this is caused by roundworm, transmitted through contaminated food and water. Filariasis, this is caused by a filarial worm, and it is transmitted by Culex mosquito. Now, ringworm, these are the fungal infections affecting skin, nails, and scalps. Now let's discuss some NCERT based questions. So first question is, you have to explain the relationship between Salmonella typhi and Vidal test. How does this diagnostic test help identify typhoid? Let's have a look at the answer. Okay, so Vidal test detects antibodies produced against Salmonella typhi in the patient's blood. Now you can see here, this test measures antibody titers against the O and the H antigens of Salmonella typhi. These antigens are like ID badges on the bacteria, and measuring the antibody levels help doctors diagnose typhoid fever more accurately. Finally, you can see a rising antibody titer indicates an active infection. This means that if the amount of antibodies increases over time, it's a strong sign that the patient's body is currently fighting off Salmonella typhi, confirming the diagnosis of typhoid fever. The next question, compare and contrast the transmission cycles of malaria and filariasis, considering both the vectors are vectors and causative organisms. Let's have a look at the answer. See, let's closely look at the key difference between malaria and filariasis. So, malaria is transmitted by Anopheles mosquito and it is caused by Plasmodium species, which is a protozoan. On the other hand, filariasis is transmitted by Culex mosquito, which is a different kind of mosquito. Okay. Now you can see this filariasis. This is caused by filarial worm, which is a helminth. So these are the differences between the malaria and filariasis. Now both malaria and filariasis need specific mosquito vectors to complete their life cycle, but their pathogens are from different biological groups. Malaria is caused by a protozoan and filariasis is caused by helminths. Okay. Now their life cycle and the way they interact with human and mosquitoes are also different, which is why we need different strategies to control and treat each disease. Now let's discuss some keynotes. So vectors such as mosquitoes, they transmit disease without getting affected themselves. Then typhoid is caused by bacteria and this can be diagnosed by Vidal test. Then pneumonia, this is caused by Streptococcus pneumonia and it affects lungs. Okay, especially alveoli. Then common cold, this is caused by a rhinovirus. This is a respiratory infection. Okay, it affects the respiratory tract. Then dengue and chikungunya, these are viral diseases transmitted by Aedes mosquito. And amoebiasis is caused by a protozoan Entamoeba histolytica and it infects the large intestine. Malaria is caused by protozoan Plasmodium and the vector is Anopheles mosquito. Ascariasis, okay, this is also known as a roundworm. This spread through contaminated food and water. And filariasis is caused by filarial worms and the vector is Culex mosquito. Ringworms, this is a fungal disease, affects skin, nails, and scalp where the fungus can easily grow. Now there are some interesting questions for you. First question is compare and contrast waterborne and vector-borne disease transmission. Next question for you is why do you think some pathogens specifically target certain organs or body systems? Okay, so some of the pathogens they target liver, some they target large intestine. Why is this so? You have to critically analyze this. Okay, so now we have discussed the theory related to this chapter. Okay, now let's discuss some BPP related to this topic. The first question is which of the following pathogens cause typhoid fever in humans? So what would be the correct answer here? Okay, we have the option Plasmodium falciparum, Salmonella typhi, Entamoeba histolytica, and Wucheria bancrofti. What is the correct answer? Yes, option number B is the correct answer here. Typhoid is caused by a bacteria, Salmonella typhi, which infects the small intestine. Okay. Plasmodium falciparum causes malaria, Entamoeba histolytica causes amoebiasis, and Wucheria bancrofti causes filariasis. Next one, the Vidal test is used to confirm which disease. The options are malaria, typhoid, pneumonia, or elephantiasis. What is the correct answer? The option number B is the correct answer here. Typhoid. Vidal test is used to confirm typhoid. Okay. In Vidal test, antibodies against the this Salmonella typhi. These antibodies are detected. If antibodies are present, then obviously the person is suffering from this disease. Now, next one, which of the following disease is transmitted through the bite of female Anopheles mosquito? The options are scariasis, malaria, ringworm, and pneumonia. What is the correct answer? Okay, the correct answer is malaria. The female Anopheles mosquito, this is a vector for malaria. It transmits the protozoan Plasmodium, which can cause malaria. Next one, elephantiasis is caused by Ascaris lumbricoides, Wucheria bancrofti, Entamoeba histolytica, and Trichophyto, Trichophyton species. What is the correct answer? The option number B with the correct answer is Wucheria bancrofti. This is a filarial worm and is called filariasis, also known as elephantiasis. Okay, so basically, this infects the lymphatic vessels of the lower limbs and cause swelling in the lower limbs, okay, in the legs. Next one, ringworm infection is caused by bacteria, virus, fungi, or protozoan. What is the correct answer? The option number C, fungi, is the correct answer here. Okay, so these fungi, they can infect, okay, the areas such as skin, okay, or the toes. Okay, so ringworm infection is caused by fungi.